Good morning, this is Jack from Alpha Charts 365 with a state of the market video. Before we get started, this is not a recommendation to buy, hold, or sell any stock or security. This is for informational purposes only. I may hold positions in some of the stocks mentioned, and know your time frame and risk tolerance. Everything I do is going to be based on my time frame, which is a weeks to months type of time frame. Today is February 23rd, 2020. Okay, so we're always going to start with the SPX just to see what it's doing. And, it's an uptrend. We had a couple of, we'll call them scary days, the last 2 days, right? But what I like to do sometimes is just take price out and just look at moving averages. And what this does for me is it tells me what is the trend, right? So are we seeing things like this, right? With the 23-day or whatever your short term is, crossing over the medium term and going into the longer term and turning down, boom, boom. And then this is kind of starting to slope down. Or are we in a full-blown uptrend? And as of right now, as of today, it's my opinion that we are in a full-blown uptrend, right? There's nothing here that's telling me that we are in a downtrend. This little curve right here, that's nothing, right? I mean, that's nothing. Curve right there. I mean, this does not disqualify this as an uptrend. So as of right now, I still see this as a full-blown uptrend, right? We are not looking like this. We're not even looking like this, right? It didn't even cross into the 150-day. So as of right now, uptrend. And so you can see here, this right here was noise because it ended up going back higher again. Now this wasn't. So there's a big difference. And again, I won't ever catch the tops nor the bottoms. So yeah, this is an acceptable loss for the most part, especially if I'm in the strongest stocks, right? So if I'm in the strongest stocks, they shouldn't look quite as bad as this most of the time. Now, is this a great time to trim up and get out of your weak stocks? Absolutely. But going back, I see this as a beautiful uptrend, and it's still intact. QQQ, same thing. Nice uptrend, still intact for now. IWM. Now, this is kind of funny because a lot of people talk about how weak the IWM is. But again, when you look at it in this way, this uptrend is still intact. I mean, this was, kind of gross right over here. This is bad right over here. But this, well, that's not bad, right? We can work with this. So yes, is there overhead supply? Yeah, there's some potential overhead supply here. Let's just go and get some of this stuff back in. But the uptrend, as of right now, is still there. So even the Russell is in an uptrend. Dow Jones, beautiful uptrend. There's nothing that has disqualified this from an uptrend. And if we're trend followers, then there's nothing to overreact from top callers. So some things that I look for. There's no vertical violations here, right? I mean, big red bars like this and like this, like that's vertical violations. That's a vertical violation here. This is a vertical violation here, right? These are things that would get me much more cautious. But I'm not seeing any of those vertical violations. So, no, it's not yet. Maybe this one, but there was no follow through. It kind of came right back. So I'm watching this. Now, if you see these moving averages start to flatten and then turn lower, that's a possibility. And if we see that, I would change my stance immediately. There's no reason to predict what's going to happen, though, because we don't know. So as of right now, the only thing we know is price. And the only thing we can say is that price is in an uptrend. So what else? Okay, so let's look at SPX. I'm going to get rid of this, right? Let's go to line charts. And I'm going to go to a weekly here. And what I did was I plotted some other diseases, right? So I looked at when SARS happened, and SARS happened right around February of 2003, right here, okay? We were bottoming at this point, and what ensued? An uptrend. Ebola started in December of 2013, and for a very long time, we were in an uptrend, right? An uptrend had already started. The breakout was just happening, right? And then here's COVID-19, our current virus. And we are in an uptrend. So with all that being said, looking at past viruses, I don't see this as, virus by itself as being the major risk factor, because we had it here, and we have it here. And I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. So let's look at some sub-indexes. I always like to look at XLF. Again, just fooling around with this supply right here. Uptrend is still looking pretty good. We're on the weekly still. So yeah, it has nothing's turning around, nothing's going down. So things are looking good. Even here, is this a top? Well, I don't know. Not yet, right? Not yet. Now, if we start to flatten out and start to move lower and the purple line goes below the blue line, that would change my point of view probably. SMH, still an uptrend. Nothing says we are no longer in an uptrend here, right? Everything looks really good. Looking at lumber, right? Lumber is at an area of potential supply. The purple line has started to decline, but it has not yet crossed over the blue. It's still purple above blue. And for me, that's not worrisome. Now, I don't trade lumber, but I do use lumber as a forward-looking indicator. So if I was to see this roll over more, that would at least perk up my ears, and I would be very interested in that. And potentially start to get a little bit more defensive. But it hasn't done that yet, so I'm not going to predict. I'm going to trade what I see. Looking at the put-call ratio, yeah, so we were very bullish, and once again, we shook out. I think this could potentially go even more bearish, especially in the next couple of days, and that would be fine with me, right? As long as I'm holding some of the best stocks out there, right, and I'm cutting the crap off my portfolio, this is just fine because they should hold up pretty well, right, for my time frame. So yeah, what does this do? This creates just enough fear in the market for the market to go higher. Looking at some bonds, so high yield bonds, right? High yield bonds are right up against some supply right here, and looks like they want higher. We'll find out what if they roll over here or if they go higher, but the trend is higher, and as of right now, everything is higher. A breakout in high yield bonds would, for me, be a risk on sentiment. And so it means that people don't think the end of the world is coming. Looking at the 10-year. So the 10-year yield, right? So working at the yield, and this has been an important area that we're coming into right now in the 10-year. So if we hit it and we bounce, that's a positive, right? If we hit it and we break through it and we get below this level, or even a little further down this level, these levels, I think it could go a lot further, and that would be, I think, a negative for the market in general if people are flocking to bonds. So that's and again, these are some potential targets on the way down. I don't have any position in bonds at all right now, but I am watching. And just looking at some ETFs that I consider risk on ETFs, biotechs, in an uptrend, trying to break out, financials, financial services already broke out. And so, this bodes well, I think, for financials overall. Financial services have already broken out, and they are in an uptrend, straight up uptrend. It doesn't get better than that, right? It's perfect. The other one is going to be software, right? So software I consider risk on, it's still in a beautiful uptrend. Nothing to see here. Now let's look at growth versus value. So growth versus value, and we had a big rise. It's now coming back a little bit. But again, this trend is just beginning, right? So for it to come back or chop around for a little bit, let these moving averages catch up a little bit, that just looks good to me. And I think that's a bullish scenario. Again, this uptrend is just now starting, so I think that there's a lot more to go. Looking at the rest of the world, ACWX, minus the United States. I'm going to go to a weekly on this one because I do like this chart. All right, so here's the rest of the world minus the United States. And we'll see this is an area that I've identified as potentially important. And it's held up here. Here, that was important. It was important here. It acted as support here. A little support resistance area here. Resistance here. Broke out. Now it's testing it again. So this, for me, is an important area, right? And here's my uptrend line, right? So it is an uptrend. But we're now testing it again. And so I think that is important. And so here's my theory. I'm going to give a little bit of my theory on this. So I think that people are really worried about the coronavirus, especially in Asia. And what they're doing is that they are moving their money from those markets and planting it into the best market in the world. And that's the United States. The United States is, for the most part, a safe haven market. And it's really the best market in the entire world. So that's where money is flowing into. So no matter what happens with the coronavirus, our market probably will not be as bad as the other markets, relatively speaking, because we are considered a safe haven. There's no better place. If we go down, the entire world goes down as far as markets go. So I think that is one of the things that we may start to see happen is major amounts of inflows into our markets because of the fear of coronavirus. And I think that'll help mitigate some of the potential downside for the U.S. Just a thought. Also, the other thing I'm going to say is that if the coronavirus really does do what the fearmongers are saying about it, as far as the whole apocalypse and destroying, killing all these people and making all these people sick, we have bigger things to worry about than our investments in the stock market, because we're talking about our health and friends and family dying from the coronavirus. So I think that we have to err on the side of some of our great biotech companies and vaccine makers figuring out a vaccine for this and helping us along with it. So that's just kind of my thoughts and my theory. Again, if coronavirus is as bad as we think, it's going to be absolutely terrible for all of us. But based on past viruses, hopefully this will be similar to SARS or Ebola in the fact that it'll be a short-lived problem, or just a little consolidation or choppy mess, and then we continue higher because we figure out that it's not going to kill a third of the planet. I hope everyone stays safe and has a great week this week, and you guys take care.